Um, so are there any types of features? And I don't like at this point, like you, I'm gonna follow your lead a little. Do you think it's at this point where we should kind of start sharing it and showcasing it as we talk about these features?
That's up to you. I guess I wasn't sure what the plan was. If that was going to be like another um,
It's probably.
podcast or not. But did you want to show it or did you?
I think yeah, I'm gonna show it because I think we'll keep people in suspense long enough here. But this
Okay.
is what the Green Fox spreadsheet looks like. So, um, you know, right now this is a blank spreadsheet we happen to be looking at. This is the kind of grid that we had talked about, and try to. I'm gonna do a little bit here. I really haven't. Now we're
There,
going like live camera here, so. Um,
you don't have a pre-made cake.
I didn't have the pre-made cake here. I have it for the older version, but I had just downloaded the new version. So you know what I'm going to do? Let me open up a slightly older version.
Okay.
I forget what version I'm working off of. I want to say 3.4. Does it tell me when I open it up which one I'm on?
Yep. 3.5 right in the upper left.
Okay, so I'm on 3.5. You're currently up to
Six.
3.6.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll talk about what maybe the subtle differences are between 3.5 and
Sure.
3.6 because it's probably not a lot, right?
Correct.
Okay. This is a game I just played earlier today, about 2 hours ago. It's from that custom league I was talking about with the Hall of Fame league. So you can kind of get a look at what it looks like when you've got more of a completed score sheet. I had Dwight Gooden throw a great game, as you can probably see from the grid here.
Yeah. There's not much green on there, so
There's
that's
not
usually
a lot of green. Yeah, I had Dwight Gooden facing off against Warren Spahn. Spahn got lit up a little bit more, so you can see Spahn got hit up a tiny bit more here.
mm-hmm.
Um, but what you're doing as you get into the spreadsheet, and I'm going to uh, just showcase like a little bit of what would happen here. So let's talk a little bit. This is a custom league that I'm looking at right now. This is kind of like your league screen in a sense, right?
Yeah. I think this is my ugliest page of the spreadsheet. I think you look at it like, what is this? It's totally messy, but luckily once you're set up, you don't go back to this really much at all, and it's uh, it's kind of a good depiction of maybe I don't want to say an unorganized plan, but I apologize for its kind of scatteredness, but it's pretty functional.
It is functional, and I think it's also like it's helpful because a lot of places where these initial screens, right? Because a lot of the tabs that we see down here don't populate until you actually generate the league, right? Like
Not
all
till
of
you go into
these
league mode, right? Does it really show? It kind of unhides about 10 different sheets for the league.
exactly. So I think if we go back to this other one, you'll notice there's so many fewer tabs here because this has not yet been set up to be a league.
Right.
But
That's
you've
just
got
in
like
free play.
right, and you've got all the steps in here to like, hey, like here's the league help. This is really where you're gonna, if you want to set up a league, you're gonna start here, and you kind of walk everybody like all the way through. Like here's how you're going to kind of build the league.
Yeah. It. Yeah. There's good steps there, and some videos on how to set up your leagues too.
Right, and I think we'll include some links in the show
Okay.
notes so people can find that on like, is it on like YouTube?
Yes.
Yes, so we'll include those links so people can get to those as well. But now, as I go back to this established one, so I've got like a 6 team league. So here's my current standings. I've played roughly, I'm in the middle of playing my games like 11 through 15 of the league, right? So a couple teams have finished. Um, the reason I go game by game and you can see my schedule here is I always have the winner stay. So as long as they're winning, they stay as the home team until they've finished that next set of 5 games, and then I try to
Okay.
keep everybody at least within a 5 game range there. Um, so as I set up these games, like this is what you're going to do to like click and get the game to be set up. Um,
Can you add a game there and just click
yeah,
to
that's what I'm
load
going
it?
to do. I'm going to unlock this real quick. So I clicked up here to unlock it. And now what I can do is just add a game. So I'm actually going to just say like these two guys are just playing their second game. I'll add the next number. And then I just have to, I'll even just go with the same starting pitchers because I think it'll allow me to do that.
Yeah, it won't
Uh,
care.
it won't care. Will it care about the number of game?
No,
Okay.
it really only looks at the teams, the starting pitchers, and that season game number, that column number with the yellow up there.
Yep. Over here.
That's that's how it knows the order of the games, and that has to be unique for every game,
Okay.
as well as the game ID's got to be unique.
Right. So we've done that. Now we're going to lock it. And, I'm going to just use the basic term because I think this is what it does. There's a lot of idiot proofing in the spreadsheet here.
There's never enough of that, but it tries to do its best.
And I've definitely clicked on lock it. Like I'm done. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for that little success dialogue to pop up and let us know we actually completed the steps correctly. I've had it come up the other way where it says we can't do it right now, and it won't let you lock it if it's not proper, right? So
correct.
And usually for me, that comes down to things like when I had the first initial, if I forgot the first initial, because that's how these guys appear on the roster. It's trying to make sure it's got the valid starting pitcher for each of the teams as it validates,
yes.
right?
Yep. Do you ever use that starting pitcher assignment tool up there?
I haven't used it yet.
Well, let's finish loading the game first here.
Okay, let's do that. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear the spreadsheet, and you've got a button in here programmed to do that. So I'm going to hit reset. I've saved everything, so I'm in good shape here. And so reset all, and it's in the process of just deleting everything and making it back into a blank spreadsheet again. And that's what we have now. You can see like all the batters are gone, the pitchers are gone, the team names are gone. Everything's blanked out.
Can you click the reset button again, James? I don't think it didn't show.
You know why? Because it popped on my other screen.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
I saw it.
Sure. I know what it's supposed to look like, but I didn't. So maybe he clicked it so fast that it didn't show up on this. So.
Nope.
Okay.
So it gives you the ability to reset certain things. I generally just hit reset all because I just want everything blanked out so I can get back to a blank spreadsheet.
Yeah, I think that's for sure the most common.
Right. So that's basically what I'm going to do is hit reset all. It's going to go through the same process. It won't look like it's getting rid of much because everything's gone already. And then this tells me the kind of league mode that I'm in here also, right? That this is a custom league that we're working with here.
Yes.
And then we're going to come up here and click on this game ID. And this is where it brings me back to my schedule and says, okay, tell me which game you want to play. And it has to be an unplayed game that we select at this point. I can't select a game that's already been played, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, let's say we can't. So, so now as I've clicked on that, you can see now it's loaded in the names of the teams, what field we're playing at, which was all on the schedule. It gives me the starting pitcher. So here we see the home starter for the visiting lineup. And then we've got the visiting pitcher for the home lineup. And if I wanted to, I could actually click here to load a specific lineup for the team. And now this is where you'd have all your custom lineups. And I'm going to bring this over because that popped on the other screen too. So you can see now it's saying, okay, which lineup do you want to choose? Now I've only got one lineup because I just, it's a Hall of Fame league. We're not doing a whole lot of platooning in this league. Yeah. But it's telling me who the starting pitcher is, what hand he throws with, so that if I had more of a regular team, I might want to go with like a versus righty lineup at this point. But in my case, since I just have the one, I'm just going to select that and say, okay, that's the lineup we're going to go with. And now it's that will help me choose which of the lineups. And you can have multiple lineups here, right?
Yep. You can have up to 4.
Up to 4. So perfect. If I wanted to, and I can tell you, like right now in my league, Berra is hurt, right? So I need to substitute for him. So what I'm going to do is click here on Berra, and it's, again, making sure we are doing what we want to do here. But, asking me right now, like, do you want to actually choose a replacement? And I'm going to say yes. Popped on the other screen again. And this is what you were talking about, that you've got all of your bench also loaded in. So now it knows, okay, here's all your other available players. So obviously, Bear's my catcher. I'm going to pick Parrish as my backup and say, let's put him in. And now he's been replaced and he's the starting catcher for this game.
Right. And if you actually looked at your bench again, you'd see Bear on it.
And that's what we could do. Well,
So if you hit sub again, but don't really, you could just hit cancel. Here, say, oh, yes.
And then bring it back over, and here
so
it
now
is.
You can see Bear there. Now you can just hit cancel out of this if you don't want to do it, but this kind of shows that it swaps him to the bench, so you don't lose him for the game.
Exactly. Very cool. And then let's say we already, the other team is already set up, and then let's just run through like a couple of at-bats here. And, I'm going to be nice and let the Tiger players get the hits, and the other guys will get the outs. How's that sound?
Okay. That sounds good.
All right, so Trammell's up. We're going to say he leads off with a single. And so we're going to click here, and it's going to open up a dialog box. And I think this has gone through some iterations. So if people saw an earlier version, it might look a little different now. But in here, we've got all the different out options in the green. And then we've got the position that maybe the play is going to go to. You've got your hit options. And then we've got some error options here. I think those are the main ones. There's a couple other things that people will see here too for like pre-event results, your wild pitches, your pass balls, your balks. And then if there's going to be outs, if there's a particular thing like a fielder's choice or a double play, like who's actually the...
Yeah, some kind of base runner implication, some event, that's where it'll note.
There you go.
You have to make a choice there.
So when I score, and we'll do a little bit. So I'm just going to select single. I'm not going to worry about what field it went to. The game I usually play is History Maker Baseball. It doesn't always tell me what field it's going to. So I'm just going to say it's a single. And what we're going to see is now Trammell's got a leadoff single. Green usually is good. Red's bad, right? So I think we saw that when we first loaded this up. But now I've got a runner on first.
Hey, James, you mind clicking that question mark to the left there, the red one? That kind of gives a little...
Oh, yeah, good point.
...key of what that green square means.
So there you go. This is the breakdown here. You can see all these different segments. If you want to change the hitter, it would be this kind of bar right here, and that would bring up that same bench dialogue.
Right, the substitution window.
If we needed to change the pitcher, we would click in that like thin line up here, and that would bring up the opposing team's like bullpen. And then if you wanted to get a pinch runner, like at this point, which we won't, but if I wanted to get a pinch runner, I could do that. And again, it would go to that same bench screen that we had.
Right.
And then lets everything that happens from that point on, after the batter has reached, to start taking place for that pinch runner.
Correct.
And then we've got the result in the middle, which we can see here. I've got my single in the middle, and all the outs would be there. And we'll show at least one that has like a pre-event result, so that people can see that it has both of them in there. And then you're going to start tracking all your other things like RBIs, stolen bases, and you're going to see the player move across the field, which I kind of like, because you get to see like, at the end of an inning, like where did they end up? Where was the out made on them? All that kind of stuff is going to show up on here too. So you get to see kind of those player movements happening in there.
Right. But I would say when you're just starting out, I think this is kind of your friend, this little key here of what square means what. So you can look at it here, and also if you look down at if you maybe close that and click that help tab at the bottom, that kind of maybe gives people more than they want to know. But that kind of shows how the whole thing kind of works. It's a little scary to look at first, but it really just kind of outlines all the different pieces in it. There is a lot of useful information in it.
Absolutely. And, and there was a couple times where I thought I was going to have questions, and then I said, well, let me just check these help menus. And there was a few of the things I was able to answer as a result of that. So you did well there.
Yeah, well, thanks. It's nothing anybody ever wants to do is read the manual, But
That's right.
So
All
anyway,
right.
all right. Sorry
So
to
now we
interrupt.
got George Brett up. We're gonna let him go out, as we said. We'll only let the Tigers get the hits here, but let's have Brett ground out to second, but a slow grounder. And the result is that Trammell's going to end up moving to second. So he's able to, kind of move up. So what I would do is I'm going to select kind of ground out. Usually with the outs, I want to know where they went to. So I'm going to say it went to second base. And then I'm going to do this little icon here with the runner's advance. And I'm going to click on the one so that it tells the spreadsheet that Trammell's moving up on this ground ball. And what we'll see in the end result here now is Brett gets the out. He's out at first. Never made it to the first, never made it to first base. And now we've seen Trammell now advance to second base. All right.
Looks good.
All right. Now Trammell is going to take advantage of Gooden, and he's going to try to steal. I think it's going to be here, right?
Always check the help thing.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. So let's pull up the help menu. And sure enough, we're going to click in this little box here, which is right here, which says this is for third base, stolen base, or caught stealing. And what's SE again?
Stolen base for the throwing error. So that would make him move up another base.
Got it. Okay. So we'll click out of here, and then what we're going to do is click here. I'll click through a couple times so people can see it.
Right.
But first one is going to be a stolen base, and it's going to actually say SB in there. So we know now that Trammell has reached third via the stolen base. But if I wanted to have it be where he got thrown out at third, I could click it again, and it's going to turn it red and make it a caught stealing. But in this case, I actually do want to put him on. Oh, and then it was the, scoring error. Stolen base plus an error.
Right, so that's what made him score.
Right, so I need to put him back here. So we'll do that one more time. And then and he scored an unearned run because he scored on the error.
Correct.
Now, we haven't seen an earned run, but we'll kind of give it away. It's blue if it's an earned run. It's gray if it's an unearned run. Plus, you get this little icon filled in here letting you know it's an unearned run that it scored. All right. Let's put him back here. I do want him to move to third because we're going to have Frank Howard's going to come up and just hit a long fly ball, and we're going to get a runs to score here. So Frank Howard, we're going to have go on a fly out, but we're going to do it as a sac fly. Let's have him hit it out to deep center. And now it's going to ask me, now it defaulted to the third baseman as the one advancing because he's the only guy on base. So if I had multiple people on base, I could select others to move up if I wanted, but we're just having the one guy go, and we're going to hit OK. And then my second out is now going to show this is now an earned run because there were no errors here. We also see that Frank Howard has gotten himself an RBI, and you can see that here, that's what this little orange box is where the RBIs are tracked. And again, he's out at first base because he flew out. But we've got a run scoring. Trammell had his stolen base in there, and now we've got two outs. And Reggie Jackson's going to come up, and we know what he has to do against Dwight Gooden, and he's going to obviously strike out. So
one thing we can look at here is that in the little purple square, it shows two outs.
Right here.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. So keeping track of how many outs there are right now in the inning, in case you needed to know it, because you don't want to start selecting double plays and things like that if you've already got two outs.
Yeah, it'll balk at you.
Yeah.
You know? not a balk, but it'll tell you that you shouldn't be doing that.
That's right. Some more of that kind of like proofing that we talked about from before. So, but yeah, we're going to have Reggie strike out. And what we would normally want to do is select here this OK and toggle the end of the inning, right? Which would, let us know that the inning is over. So normally this is what I would select, and we'll do that just for the sake of doing it, but I'm going to show the wrong way too.
Yep.
So I'm going to select here, and you can see now it puts this kind of like little thing marker here to let us know that that's the end of the inning. So now when I start the next inning, I know to move over to the next inning here. If you happen to bat around, though, this will let you know exactly where you ended up, too. And I think most people scoring usually do this in their scorebook, too. I'm going to go in and clear this result. Try that again. I'm going to also toggle that and just make it a blank one. This time, what I'm going to do is strike out and pretend I forgot that there was 2 outs, and I'm just going to say, okay, like, oh, this is the second out of the inning, and it's going to populate a dialog box that says, it appears the third out was made. Do you want to proceed as if you click toggle the end of the inning? And again, I've been protected by the score sheet here, and I'm going to say, yeah, I did mean to do that. Thanks. And it will, kind of give us the like heads up. You're ending the inning right here.
Yeah, I try not to, rely on it, but I do fall into that trap sometimes myself of just clicking the OK. So
Absolutely.
it's been handy.
Now it's at the end of the inning that we'll finally enter the results in here, so we get to see like now that we've got like a run that has scored in that inning, and this would be like if I had to walk away for some reason and came back, like this would oh okay, I'm in the bottom of the first here because like yeah, I haven't entered any results there for that yet. All right, and that's basically half an inning, but just like that's pretty much what it's going to do there. Would it'll let me like just end the game at this point too, right?
Probably. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's
There's not a
nothing
whole
in the
lot in
bottom.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
One thing maybe we could show is a lot
yeah.
of times when I'm playing, it's I'll over on the left. There's those couple of different buttons, but that bottom one that says hide pitching,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
below. Usually I'll if you, yeah, that kind of hides that whole middle section that you really don't need during the game typically, and then I'll use that. That.
Yes. Because it's not really generating these unless you ask it to, right?
Right. If you click that computing game stats, it will. So if you want to, commentate or look at that, it's worth showing. But otherwise, I usually have it hidden because it's just kind of, I don't say waste space in a way.
No, it does make it easier to scroll back and forth though.
Right.
And I haven't even hidden it ever, so now I
Oh,
think I might start doing
okay.
that more.
And I usually always, not, I shouldn't say always, but typically I'll use those up and down big blue arrows there on the side of the score sheet
Yes.
to kind of jump down and jump back up. So that's kind of what I'll
Nice.
use to
Yeah,
play
and I know
quickly.
this works probably a little bit better when you have those pitching boxes hidden too. I think it positions a little bit better when you
Yeah,
jump down.
there's a game option about that of whether you want to do it. But do you ever use the floating scoreboard?
I
I
haven't
also
used
like
that
that.
either. Let's
So if you
pop that one up here. Put it over here. But that would allow me to just kind of put this up here so it's independent of the spreadsheet, I guess.
right, and it also hides the scoreboard. So it kind of just depending on how big your screen is,
Oh,
then it
right.
kind of gives you a little more screen real estate.
See that? This is a tutorial for me as well as everybody else. So I love it.
So yeah, that's kind of my typical scenario as I play with this floating scoreboard, and this way I can see as much of the score sheet as I can.
All right. Very cool. And you do have automatic dice in here. I never use those either. I usually like to roll my own dice, but it does. You do have it, and you can program the dice for whatever your game happens to need. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, you can. I think it allow up to 16, but you can roll up to 4 at once, and you can kind of pick what color of the dice you want, how many sides it has, and you can go crazy and say this has a symbol or whatever you want on it for different games. But it's pretty flexible, and when you do it, you can also set it up. It'll like in that little demo window there where it shows the dice.
In here?
Yeah, that when you click that roll button there on the side, all the dice to the right of that roll at once. So if you wanted to roll these 3 at once, like that, I'll say that demo right there, that is a Stratomatic thing. Like
Mm.
1/6 of one and 2 of the other.
Right.
But because that's how it's what it uses, kind of for its main batter event result. But
Okay.
so depending on your game, you should be able to set that up however you want it.
Very good. I think I just messed that up. Let's see. So let's bring this back. Okay. I'm going through our list here. let's also show some of the stat keeping now too. And I think this is still mine, right? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So for leagues, we've got our standings. I think we had shown this before, but we can, it'll keep track of as we enter the results. It'll keep track of all of these stats, including standings. We can go to game game by game totals for each of the players, right? And this
Yeah.
is like if you wanted to see like how did he do in a particular like how did a player do in a particular game. Now I've got like here's all of Willie Mays's like game logs in a sense.
Right. And you could also kind of click on those filters if you wanted to see, like right above the lineup player name. If you click on that drop down, that's where you could kind of clear that select all, and then you could pick any player, and it would just show the records for that player. So if you want to kind of see how's he doing in the last 10 games or something.
Right. So we'll pick. Let's go to travel. Why not? Let's go right back to the man. So here's his game by game logs. We can see he had a 4-hit game in here. Awesome. He had one game with a home run. Not a huge power hitter, but he's got one so far. He also, and we'll see this in a minute, but he's had 4 stolen bases so far too.
Yeah.
So doing pretty well.
And I think it always tries to put them in game order, kind of with that game number.
There you go.
So they're kind of sequential.
Right. Okay. And then we've got also kind of team stats, or their total stats, I should say. These are the individual players' like total stats, right?
Which one are you on?
The GTBS.
Those would be like game team batting stats.
Team batting stats.
If you look in column R there, like that'd be like for the whole game. These would be the team stats, batting wise. It just kind of shows who their opponent pitcher was and who they were, just for reference. But
okay. And then we can come over here to this will be where the individual's total stats are going to be.
Correct.
Okay. So again, we'll kind of just bring this to Trammell and see like what did those game logs kind of equal up to for him. And we can see where he's at now, hitting 278, not bad for a Hall of Fame league. Slugging 426. He's 4 for 4 in stolen bases, so he had a 4-game hit streak. That's not too bad. Yeah. But yeah, we can get his total stats like here.
Right, and it's easier on the team ID, that second column, to look at a team in the second.
Yep. So we'll select everybody again, and then we'll come here. I forget which team he was on. I want to say
RR, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right. So there's his total team here. They're only hitting 218 as a team, so he's probably doing one of the better guys on the team right now.
Yep. So in these, you can sort them by whatever column you want. If you wanted to see them by OPS or whatever you wanted to do.
Right. Excellent. And then there's obviously pitching versions of this too. But then the other thing we get is kind of league leaders here. These are all automated buttons as well. So this is where you basically can do to compute all of like the cumulative stats and everything. And then we've got our league leader page. So I think almost all the stat categories are featured on the leader page, right?
Yeah, I think so. Probably more than I need, but
but better to be over have them and then under have them, I think. So
right.
So you got all your batting leaders up top here, and then you've got all your pitching leaders underneath. And it is letting you know like what it's set as the minimum inning pitched or minimum at bats for the rate stats.
Right. Correct.
There you go.
And one thing, if you click on a player, it should highlight them in all the categories you want to kind of see.
Oh, so again, I know where he is because he's leading the league in stolen bases. So let's go and click on Trammell. And
see if he shows up anywhere else.
Oh, he does not.
That's okay.
I don't see him on there. But let's go to a guy. So can I unselect him now or
just pick somebody else?
Okay.
I think it's up at the top. There's that clear highlights if you want to clear them all. But you can just pick somebody else.
I know Foster's been having a monster start, so we can see all the places that Foster's showing up. So.
Right, like that.
There you go. All right, that's kind of cool. I didn't even know it did that either. So, um, very cool look. Anything else that we want to? Was the roster sheet that we talked about, where you can enter the positions that they play, and this just kind of helps you understand like where they're going to populate.
Yeah, that positions thing there is strictly to when the substitute window comes up, it'll show that as an aid, but it doesn't enforce anything about where you want to put them. It's
Good
that just
point.
kind of comes in the historical data that comes in. It says this is where they played that year, if you want to use it, or wherever you put in if you're using the historical. So it's strictly, like you said, an aid to the user.
Now, when you use the historical leagues, is there a particular place that you recommend people getting the files from, or is it automatically like if I was to say I want to play the 75 season, does the spreadsheet automatically get that, or is it going to look for a particular file?
Yes. There's a lot of questions in there, but let me just say how it works. Um,
Yeah.
that so the Green Fox uses the retro sheet data from the it's kind of a famous website of baseball game
Oh yeah.
data, and so it uses data from there or game log data, and that's where it gets all the historical schedules and lineups. But it doesn't go out to the website when you create your league. On the Green Fox Facebook page, I have all the files already made up. So
Oh
you could,
okay.
if you wanted, like, there's a whole file for the '70s and a whole file for the '90s. So you download whatever one you want. You can download all of them. But if you say, "Oh, I want to make a league replay 1975," you have to download the other file first and open it up, so that way the Green Fox can find it and grab the data out of it.
Okay.
So, so it uses that. And it also uses that um, what's called the Sean Layman Baseball Database, which is
Mm.
not as well known as the retro sheet, but it kind of takes, I think it takes retro sheet and kind of boils it down and kind of computes season stats for people. And that's what I use to get the rosters as well as the positions played by each player.
Yeah, because it's all in there.
Right. And it also, that's including for pitching, it would, if they had more starts than relief appearances, it'll call them a starter reliever, as opposed to if they had more relief appearances than starts, it'll classify them as a reliever starter. But like I said, it's just a aid. It's just a do what you want with it.
Okay.
But yeah, those files are available on the website. Maybe we could talk about that at some point too.
Yes, I think we will.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. I think we're bouncing around a little bit from our kind of, plan a little bit as we get into the demo
That's okay.
here. Um, you mentioned on the schedule about the starting pitchers, and I think this is also like one of the newer features that you've added as well, right? Where I might be able to see
Yeah,
the games that are available based on particular starting pitcher or something, right?
yeah. That won't be in this feature, but let's
Okay.
maybe talk about the feature that is in this version, which is that starting pitcher assignment, like a kind of gray button at the top. That signs. So, but to do it, what we'd want to do is, why don't you, if you could, don't mind, James, is schedule a game, but don't put any starters in it.
Yep.
Just say, okay, I know my next game is going to be these two teams, but or whatever, but leave the starters out.
You got it. So let's put one in here. Again, we'll just do the same two teams again, but we're going to take these out.
Okay. And then lock that.
Oh, there's my warning because I forgot to change
And that's okay.
this.
That's good. So that's all right. It's
So this
totally
is saying we need at least one scheduled game has a blank starting pitcher lineup name. In this case, we're okay with that, though, right?
yes, it's
Okay,
fine.
perfect. So, okay, so then say, all right, if you're good with that, then I'm good with that, and here we go. But now we've got a little asterisk in front of this game ID that I entered because
Right, because there's no starters, and that asterisk will prevent you from loading that into the score sheet. And that way,
Right.
because some leagues want to know if it's a righty or lefty, what lineup to use. So that's why it doesn't do that. But
Okay.
but it does. It's trying to help out the schedule creation, where a lot of times you know the games and who they're playing, but maybe you don't know the starters at the time.
Right.
So so now let's say you want to assign the starting pitchers, but let's use that utility up there. So just go ahead and click it, and it'll tell you something.
All right, so in order to do this, I must first select a team. So select a team using the team ID in the visitor team ID or home team ID columns, and then click this button again. All right, so they're basically saying if I want to assign it for the Richie Riches, I'll
So
click on there and then I click here, right?
well, ID it said.
Oh, ID. So that's here.
Right. So yeah.
Okay, so we clicked on the ID, and now we're going to click here again. And now it's asking us, do we want to assign that starting pitcher for this team? So I'm going to say
Correct.
yes.
Okay, so then it's going to do a couple of backflips here. It should pop a window out. Maybe it's on your other wind
Oh,
screen.
yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'm like, where is it?
So you can kind of see in that starting pitcher assignment table, that bottom one is blank. And the whole point of this utility is to basically help you assign the starter without having to type it, number one, and also let you see the prior games if you needed to have rest or however you wanted to work your rotation.
There you go.
And so you could maybe look at that and see, okay, for 44, so you'd pick who you want to put in 44 over on the right in that little window that popped up. So how it shows
Um,
all your pictures in
yes.
there. So you pick who
Okay.
you
So let's say I wanted to start. Let's go with Jim Palmer for this one.
so that just tells you pick somebody. So once you do this one time, then you probably want to click that top box in that pop-up window that says suppress this. Yeah. Once you close the other one, you have to close
Right.
the other one. So that's the one time. Now you know how the button works. So then if you just click in there, it'll put it in there.
Okay.
And you could if you had now if you said, oh really I wanted to start Sutton, you could click on Sutton and click on Palmer, and it would say, hey, do you want to actually click off it and then click back on Palmer, because I think it's already selected, and that's the issue. Just click a different cell, like down in the blanks. Yeah. So you could say, yeah, put in Sutton. Or you could use that blank thing, which is the bottom thing in the list in the pop-up, if you wanted to clear it out.
All right. Nice.
So, it's definitely kind of a simple example with only one game, but typically you might have a series of games that you're trying to fill in and work in your rest and whatever with your rotation. So that's the idea behind this utility, so that you don't have to cut and paste or try to remember exactly how your lineup name is formatted. So you
Or your
that
pitcher's name or any of that kind of
right
stuff, right? Like,
exactly any of
yeah.
that stuff. So it's really just trying to make it so that there's less chance that you'll screw it up.
And to your point, if you're doing a big project, like it's easier for mine because I'm doing one by one, but like if I was doing a big league and, if I was playing every game of the schedule, by the time I got
Yeah,
back to, let's say, Detroit, I may have played like 12 or 13 games, and it's like I don't remember who I started last game. Well, now it's going to be
right,
right here in front of me, is because I'm saying, okay, I don't have to scroll through the whole schedule trying to make sure I see the
right,
right game.
right. So you see when you launch this utility, what it first does is hide all the rows in the schedule that aren't the Richie Riches.
Right.
So that kind of collapses it, and so you're only seeing those games. And then over on the right, you kind of see what's completed now. But anyway, so that's how that starting pitcher assignment tool works. So it's
Very
kind of
good.
I don't want to say weird, but it's not a typical thing. but I'm glad we could talk through it to kind of show how it's intended to be used and how it's helpful.
There you go. All right. What was because we've seen a lot of functionality that you've built in here, and obviously, again, we're not just talking formulas, we're not just talking like cell macros here. There's a lot of programming in here. What do you think what feature was the toughest test from a programming standpoint?
Like the toughest feature to create,
Yeah,
like in the programming, I'd probably say two things. And one is kind of a subtle thing, which is how to enforce or allow a protection level on the sheets to allow what you're allowed to change and what you can't change. And that's something that I don't know, say not. I mean, some Excel spreadsheets have it. A lot of simple ones don't, but other ones do. So that was something that was new to me in programming of how to. That's why. So sometimes when you click on in GreenFox, it'll say you're not allowed to change that.
yeah.
In different things, and that's what that protection is trying to just help you not mess something up. So that was probably the hardest of how to get that program in. So a lot of times behind the scenes, it has to undo the protection to make some changes and then turn it back on, so that you don't break it. So that was probably the biggest challenge. That's really hopefully nobody notices. you know,
Yeah, and I noticed some subtle
so
things in that, like, and probably the place you do the most editing is the schedule, especially if you're going game by game,
right,
like
the
in a custom league.
schedule, yeah, and a little bit the roster, but for sure the schedule is
Yeah,
pretty sensitive.
right.
So
So we
that's
saw like the buttons to lock and unlock, which is like kind of that
yes.
piece. But I also noticed there's a couple times where if I go to certain screens and move away from the schedule, does it like auto lock at a certain point and be like, I guess you're done over here, or will it stay
Um,
unlocked?
Not that I recall, but there are certain things that just won't let you do when it's
Okay,
locked, when it's
that's probably what
unlocked.
it is. It's probably just it won't let
Like
you
you probably couldn't
proceed
load a
somewhere
game.
else.
You couldn't go. If you left it unlocked went until load a game, it'd say, I can't do that when it's unlocked."
There you go. Okay,
Something like that. So that'd be the one thing with
right.
the whole protection thing. But the other one that was a big challenge was early on was really defining that layout on the score sheet, kind of what we showed in that little help thing where it showed what all the little cells meant.
This guy right here.
Yeah, that of trying to design that to have everything that was necessary. And I had to redo this about 5 times and create all those tiny columns and rows. And believe me, it was kind of like, oh no, I got to add a column in here. But it was doable. But it was very satisfying once I think I had a design that could handle the situations, that made sense, that weren't too small, that you could still click it, but you could look at it and understand it. So it had a lot of requirements I was trying to meet.
Yeah, and I've talked to other people who do like design work, whether it be like board game design or some programming, and I think sometimes like it almost helps, right, to have some limitations, right, that you have to like kind of get creative with. It's not like you have this open canvas of like I've got hundreds of boxes I could use. At some point, you have to
Yeah,
get creative and be like, "There's only so far I can take this, and I have to make it work within this kind of limited scope." Right?
right. Yep. Almost everything's got some constraints, and like here,
Constraints.
you can't have the boxes be so big that you could only see 3 batters on your screen. There's a lot of things you're trying to work with. So
Yeah.
um,
Now, which feature has been the most rewarding to you?
that I'd say is easy. Easy to was is definitely that. What happens when you click that do stats button up there is, you know, it's you can close the other thing, but yeah, just the first time I got that to work, that was like yeah, this I think this is Miller time right now. That was very, even
What
though
was
it's
it? I have to enter at least one result, I think, here. So I'm going to just do a strikeout,
right. You probably need something down there.
and then I got to end the inning. Right, right. It was a rain out. That's what we're going to say. It was a rain out.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah. So I click on do stats, and it
Right.
populates everything
Just
that took place.
exactly. So to see that, put those names in, fill in that box score. I know that was that was very satisfying to me. It kind of, as a kid, I was never a big fan of the Captain Kangaroo show, but I do recall I was always interested in Mr. Green Jeans' magic drawing board that would just kind of magically draw something. And that kind of reminded me that we just kind of automatically writes in all this stuff. And as a programmer and as a baseball fan and as a baseball sim thing, even though I've done a lot since then, I would say nothing has been as satisfying as getting that to work.
Nice.
And I would say the pitching stats are more complicated than the batting stats. But
Yeah.
um, so yeah,
Usually the
in some
case.
ways it's kind of anticlimactic that it happens so fast.
Yeah.
But to me, it's easily that, because that's I think what a lot of people can relate to is this is what took me 10 minutes every game to do, you know, and
Yeah.
to and so to see it happen basically in 2 seconds or less
Exactly.
is satisfying. And I will put a little disclaimer in there that it doesn't do everything. Like
Yeah.
here, it pretty much like on the pitching stats. If you've got multiple pitchers right now, it doesn't try to figure out who got the win or the save. I might work on that in a future version, but right now, the user is responsible to make sure that if you want to put in who got a hold or a blown save or that kind of stuff,
Yep.
you've got to put that in. Yeah, that box.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I
it
noticed like
does.
I had to catch myself like especially like if the like in the game we had started with where Gooden had thrown that great game, like he pitched a complete game shutout. Um but it won't automatically determine he has a quality start. Like it knows it's a shutout. It knows he
Oh,
pitched a
it
complete
will in
game.
3.6.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
So at least for the complete games, and I think I could probably put it in there for if you're following the MLB things of 6 innings and 3 earned runs or less, then it should be able to do that. But right now it starts with if they pitch a complete game, it'll figure that part out. That's one of the new
Okay.
features. But yeah, so maybe there's some room to grow there. But I feel that's not a. It's still a big win to have all the rest of the stuff done.
Yeah. Very good.
So
And then probably what's the number one thing that people ask about that it's really not able to do at this point?
well, one thing would be to automatically move the runners all the time, and that because I think mostly that's just because people really don't think about what they're asking for. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like with ball stat. If every one time you did something, you had to say this guy went to first, this guy went to second, you know, that'd be doable, but it's also kind of tedious also. So I've kind of consciously said, well, I'll try to add some base runner AI, but it's not everything. There are some things that you got to decide what you want to do. But
Yeah.
other than that, for sure, one of the common, I don't want to say criticism, but for sure, some of the I don't know, ball stat players will say because it doesn't compute fielding stats, and
Right.
that is by design. That I never intended it to, and I don't think I ever will make it do that because that's you know in NBA talk they'd say, or I'd say, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's a lot of work, and I don't think that many people care about it. It will let you track errors if you want to compute them and assign them But beyond that, it doesn't do anything with assists or putouts, double plays. I just don't. Basically, what you're asking is every at bat, effectively, I have to know who's in every position, and that's a high bar.
Yeah.
So I just knew right at the get go that that was not in the scope of my design, and I'm
Okay.
okay with that.
There you go. Um, let's see. So we mentioned a little bit, like, is there anything else that we would want to talk about with RetroSheet or the Sean Lyman database? Do you think we covered all the pieces there?
I think the main thing would be that the data you need is available the same place you'd get the red shark, red shark, the green fox program. So it's nothing. You never have to go to RetroSheet to get anything in order to get the spreadsheet to work. So
Don't have to worry about how to create what the syntax on the files are. Like everything
that
is going
right,
to be on that Facebook page.
yeah, you don't need anything to create a league that's outside of that.
All right. And then we are going to include links to the Facebook page. We'll include links to YouTube, but you've got a bunch of videos right on your YouTube channel that kind of explains like how a lot of these functions work. I know we've covered a few of them, but we certainly haven't covered all the details that people are going to want as they get into the spreadsheet here.
That's right, James. Since I put out the first version, which was maybe May or June of last year, I think I've published about 25 videos.
Oh wow.
And that's been a learning experience for me also. I never had created a YouTube video before, so that was novel. And I think like a lot of people, I really am not a big fan of listening to myself talk about anything. But I do think those videos are very helpful, and I think I am in the process of kind of maybe thinking about a new series of them, at least to cover some of the older ones, because now I feel like the state of the spreadsheet is a lot more mature, even though it's only been a year and a half. But I feel like you commented on that pop up box, the battle result box. If we showed it what it was in version 1.5 and what it is now, there's a stark difference, and I'd say it's just much easier to look at now to figure out what you want than it was before, where it was just all really one big square with a lot of different options. So yeah, I'd say the videos definitely are helpful, even though some of them are a little outdated. But in general, I think they're still quite valuable.
And I think the spreadsheet itself has some links to them as well, right? In different places, it'll kind of
Yeah,
point you,
on the
hey,
help,
that.
if you go to the help sheet there, even on the front, right on the score sheet, I think right on the top, it says, if you scroll up a little bit.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
And a link to the Facebook group too. Awesome. But I'll still provide them in the show notes. So.
It's okay.
And you mentioned there's no real financial reward here. You're not charging anything for the spreadsheet. So, and I think anybody who's been listening gets this idea that, there's definitely been, problem solving and challenges that you've gone through. But like, what's been the reward for you in working on this spreadsheet?
Mostly hearing from people like maybe like you, James, or users that
Yeah.
say that tell me this has really helped me. I don't want to say get more enjoyment out of my baseball sim project. Like I said, I never really had a baseball sim project before. Now I've kind of done a couple little ones almost because I wanted to test out Green Fox. But I think there are a couple other ones that I do want to try just for the fun of it. But for sure, the satisfaction of having somebody say, "Hey, Mike, I got your spreadsheet. This thing, it works great. It really helps me out. It saves me a lot of time, and now I can spend more time playing the games that I want to do, that I want to play." So that's rewarding to me.
Very cool. And what's next for the Green Fox spreadsheet?
Well, a couple things. One, I think, is one of the bigger challenges I think I have, but hopefully it's people like you helping solve that, is just trying to raise awareness of its availability and what it can do.
Mm.
I still see a lot of people post, their paper and pencil, and maybe they like to do it. I'm not here to say paper and pencil's evil, but I, I think there's definitely some fear of this thing is computerized and it's going to be too hard for me to learn or use. And so but I think, the real testimonials are people like you and users that go on and post on the different um, groups and websites and say, hey, I use this Green Fox thing and it worked great. And here's what I did. I use it for this project, and um, it worked really well. And so I do appreciate when people post, because probably at least once a week somebody posts on some of those sites that says, what do you use for your stats? That's
Yeah.
one of the most common questions people ask. And I think some people probably just keep asking. And it's usually the same stuff comes up. Like, oh, I use iScore. I use Ballstat. I do my own stuff. I do it on paper. And now it's good to see that sometimes somebody does say, hey, I use Green Fox.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think, like, I know with the Ballstat, the guy that created it, I think he died. And it's kind of not really, maybe it's somewhat supported, but it's not really actively being worked on. So I know
Yeah,
some
and I
people
think
were.
his spouse has kind of, turned down opportunities for people to get in there and tinker with it, because I think it's kind of almost like a testimonial to that the creator, right? Like that was his product. It's like that's kind of where she wanted to
We'll
leave
leave
it
it
at
at
that
that.
point, right? Yeah. Which, if people are looking for more functionality, I can get where they want to like see things continue to develop. But to your point, like, that was for free, yours is for free, and sometimes we have to realize like we take advantage of things as we get them, and then if they kind of stop
There's
at
no
that point,
guarantee.
there's no guarantees. Like, so I think your approach there makes a lot of sense too. But yeah, I'll definitely be somebody who raves about it. Um, you mentioned like mobile apps and stuff, so I think for some people, I think that's the biggest detractor for it. If I'm, being honest with folks, is like you will have to play in front of your computer, right? Because it is Excel. But at the same time,
Yeah,
like
I guess
most
I'd
baseball
say.
games work pretty well in front of a computer, I think too. So
Well, here's a couple things on that I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, because I don't think that's. I don't believe that really. But two things that have come up. One was I heard from one commentary that a guy said that he liked using it because it took up less counter space to play his game because he didn't have to have this score sheet now. So that was one kind of interesting thing that I never really thought about. But to your other point about having to play, there's no reason you can't. If you wanted to score your game on a piece of paper, you can, and then just come in and just enter it. You know. So if you wanted to do that, I'm not sure if that's any faster. If you want, but if you want to get the cumulative stats, it might be worth it if you want to just play your games and bring your score sheets over at times if you're going to play them away from your computer, and then just click them in.
yep.
So I would say, yeah, it's probably more efficient if you're playing by the computer and you can just do it once. But you could, uh, I don't know. I mean, you played enough games. Like if somebody gave you had one of your own score sheets and said, hey, what would it take for you to enter this? If it automatically drops the lineups in, I'd say in less than 10 minutes, you could probably enter the whole game.
I would agree. And in fact, there was a league that I ran on Ball Stat and Ball Score, and that's exactly what I did. People would send me their manual, handwritten
Score sheet.
like game score sheets, and I would just enter them into the program. And other than trying to figure out where maybe there was a mistake made or something, for the most part, 10 minutes is all I would need to enter a game in, and it wasn't a lot. So like, even if somebody's using this and they're like, oh, but I'm going to be traveling and I'm not going to have access to my computer, like, well, then do it by hand, and when you get back, just enter it in, and it's not that hard. It's doable. So, yeah.
So it's an option.
Yep.
People can do however they want, and I would agree. It does make it for sure less portable, but that's kind of all part of the trade-off, I guess.
It is. It is. So, but at the same time, I think it adds a lot of value to the game playing as well. Like I said, I've been using it for almost all the baseball projects that I do now, and I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it. And the only place I'll probably, I go to. I just forgot the name of it, but there's a Steam product that's out there that I've been using as well. And the only advantage to that is it sims the games that I don't want to play, right? So if I want to get
Okay.
like an entire league's worth of stats, but other than that,
Yeah.
this is what I use for the ones. And generally, if I'm only doing a single team replay, I don't really care about the other team's stats. I want to know how's the team doing
Right.
that I'm controlling.
For sure. Yeah. And James, you'd asked me, I think, or maybe I didn't answer it, but about what was different in 3.6
Oh yeah,
compared to what the latest what you have. And the short answer is not a lot, other than automatically it does compute those quality starts for complete games. That's one, but
nice.
that's a pretty subtle. I think it adds some savviness toward batter innings. I'm not sure if you need to show that, but that's kind of I would say, a nice feature that's already in there, but I kind of made it a little more robust, that it automatically will now detect it and say, hey, it looks like you went through your whole lineup. There's not 3 outs yet. Do you want to show the kind of overflow inning? And if you say, yeah, it'll automatically show it for you.
Right, which is like this, right? Like if I wanted to add an extra inning in here, I just have to click on this to if
Right.
I bat around and it.
Right. Add that 2+. Exactly.
So you're saying that we'll do that now. It kind of says, "Hey, are you ready to move to are you going to continue in
Right.
this inning or something?"
It'll
Yeah.
detect it and say, oh, you batted all 9. I don't see 3 outs yet. Do you want to show the overflow inning?
Ah, cool.
So that's one thing. The other, I would say, the biggest feature is what's called the game event log. And what that is, did we talk about it already? I
I don't think we
forget. But
did.
so I guess, like, when you finish playing a game, do you use that big green button in the middle there to kind of print out a PDF of your game? I don't know if you do
I
or
do
not.
not. I know we did it for like the play testing we were doing,
Yeah,
but I don't generally
right,
do that. Yeah.
right. So but what the game event log does is, once you finish playing a game, it basically, and you save the league game up there with the big green button where it says save league game stats and results. When you click that, in addition to saving all the game stats like it does and the game result, it actually saves everything that's in the score sheet as well.
Oh.
Okay. So later, after maybe you played 5 more games, and either you wanted to show somebody this awesome score sheet of something or whatever, there's a new button down there, kind of in that, below that big green button, that says load game event log, and you can go into your schedule, you click on the game ID, and it'll load, basically populate your score sheet as if you just finished the game.
Oh, cool.
So you can kind of reproduce your score sheet if you wanted to. Like I said, maybe print something, show it. You could, in theory, change something if you wanted to go and put somebody else in or whatever, if you made a mistake. But
Give that guy
basically,
that one extra hit he needed.
yeah, so he got 3,000 hits or something like that. Or give K-Line his 400th home run that he never got. Um, but also, it's so another feature that we really didn't talk about, but that you and I had tested, was, playing it in a league with another person. So that maybe they would play some games, you could play some games, and then you could import the games you didn't play. So in a game like that, if I say, oh, I won in 16 innings, and here you imported the game, you saw the stats, but this would then let you load and see the actual score sheet for that game. You could
Oh,
say, oh,
nice.
you didn't put in my pinch runner in the 10th inning, and you should have, and so this game's invalid, or however. But
Protest.
exactly. So I'm not exactly sure of all the uses, but I just liked it that it will let you recreate the score sheet, because, as you know, the score sheet is more than the box score stats there. You know, it kind of shows you the event flow of the game and what was happening. And so that was why I added that. So that's really the main feature of 3.6.
Yeah. I had a funny story about like I used to work for a newspaper when I first got out of college that was like a local sports newspaper, and we used to cover all the high school sports. And high school coaches are renowned for fibbing the scores, you know, to not embarrass their opponents sometimes, right? So like we got one of the box scores from one of the coaches. He sent us into it. He's like, "Yeah, we won 3-2." And he's like, my four hitter went 5 for 6 in the game, and you know, we're like, how did he get up 6 times if he only scored?
Right. Yeah.
It was like,
But
clearly you scored more runs than you're saying.
yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of the. I'm trying to think if there were any other smaller features in there, but there were a couple little bug fixes, or
Mm-hmm.
I say bug fixes, but just things that would make it less likely to let you encounter an error. So I'd say make
Yeah.
it a little more robust. But
I was impressed.
those were the main features.
I think the thing that impressed me the most, and it was probably the part that I was most concerned with, was being able to update a league from version to version, right? Like when you release a new version
Oh,
of the spreadsheet.
that's probably my second most gratifying feature, other than computing the game stats, was that. And partly because originally, I created this, just 27-step process to follow, and you can do it, and it will work. But then as I did it, the next version, I realized, I think I could do this programmatically on the click of a button. It took a little work, but I'm glad you mentioned that. That is my second most satisfying feature of getting the new version, upgrading it, and it's pretty painless
It really
now.
is. It's pretty impressive. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, I love all the features, but that was the one that I was like, oh god, what am I going to do when I have to move from like version 3.5 to 3.6? And it was like, this isn't that bad.
Right now, all you got to do is basically click a button and say okay, and it'll do it. Um,
Good
I was
stuff.
looking at my list of 3.6 features. Do you ever use like the note in the score sheet cell for anything?
I do not, and that is where are we seeing that on here? It's just like
I
putting
think it's
in.
right below stealing third base. Yeah, you can look at that.
Yeah, let's bring this guy up here. So, right in here is what you're saying. So, like, if I
Right.
wanted to put a note in something, I could just kind of click in here, and it'll bring up this dialogue here of like something I want to put in. Oh, that was the error one. I clicked on the wrong one,
Right.
didn't I?
Oh, that's the right one,
Oh, it is. Okay.
because the error is optional. You can just, like, I would write here sometimes, if a guy got out at the plate, I might say, I might fill in at the top that little detail note of it. Maybe it was 9-2, but here I may say he was thrown out trying to score on this fly out to right, or he got thrown out if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of if you want to add some detail, but um,
Which might be helpful if you're playing in a league with other people to like, all right, this is a little outside the normal curve here,
right,
so
yeah, something
let me
kind of
give you
weird
some
happened
details what
here.
happened.
Right.
I got an unusual result on one of those charts, and I need to know what happened.
Right. Yeah. So you could write that in there. But one of the things was, I'm trying to think if it was a sub or something. So I made it so you could put in a note even if there wasn't a result in that box. So you could just put a note of whatever you wanted. Like either I took this guy out for defensive substitution, or whatever you wanted to put in there. You can put it in any square you want to.
Yeah,
That was kind of a minor thing. But
nice.
um, and right, as you mentioned, kind of on the schedule view, that I added a feature up kind of where that unhide all games, similar to the way that when we did that assign starting pitcher utility, where it says, click on an ID and then click this button again, it'll do something similar. It'll do that with, like, if you want to just show the RR games or something for a certain team, it would work the same way. You could click that and click the box and say filter on this, or you could click a starting pitcher's name and click it, and it'll just show all the games where that pitcher starts for either home or away.
Nice.
And that was convenient for the project like I was talking about, where you're just playing all one guy's starts, so that way it kind of condenses it down where you just see that guy's starts.
Yeah,
And it makes sure so you don't have all these games that are unplayed.
that's
So that
very
was
cool.
kind of a selfish feature that, based on the project I was doing. But I figured maybe somebody else could benefit from it also. So
Absolutely.
um, what else? On the maybe I wanted to show how the lineup thing works, like how to create a lineup, or did we talk about that? We
We
kind of
did not,
showed,
but we could do that. Haven't
like,
done this in a while,
click
so
versus lefty or righty, or
yeah. All right, so I got all the lefty ones in, so let's
yeah.
do a righty one.
Well, how about first over on the left, click the green button. It says expand all.
There we go.
So there you can kind of see what lineups you've got in and not in.
So I'll do for this team. We'll do their kind of verse righty lineup then.
Yeah.
And we've got a new dialogue that opened up here.
Right.
So basically, I can just start to just put
You
guys
could
in.
start there, or you might want to start by over in the upper right. Say start with what the lefty lineup was, and I'll just modify it.
There you go. So I'll click in that and bring it back over again.
So then you could.
So now I might be looking at this and saying, okay, like even though I don't see what their hands are, maybe I know enough, but like, hey, I need a lineup where I'm going to put Kenny Lofton into center field, right? So I could kind of put him in
Right.
here, right? And do that.
Yeah. Right. I think Jeff Kent bats right. Morgan's a lefty. I think so.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll bring in Joe Morgan in for Kent and put that in like that.
Right. And click on Kent and then take him out. Yeah.
Take him out. And we'll take, who do I say? I was taking Mays out. And then this, I would just move him up and say he's going to go up into the 1, and Morgan should probably hit 2. So we'll move him up, move down.
Yeah. Then assign their
go.
positions. Show how that works.
There you go. So Morgan will be moving over to second, and then Lofton we're going to put in center.
All right. It's easy as that.
That's good. I'm going to change these guys. Yeah, he's DH. I had that right. So save and close. And now when we expand all, we'll have our second lineup built.
One of the other features in 3.6, it's maybe it'll be in 3.7. I forget what it is. But whenever you click to edit a lineup, it'll always expand that lineup in this view, so you kind of see what you started with. So if you want to change it, you can say, was he batting fifth already? Or so that's a little quirky thing that sometimes it doesn't always show it right now in your version. But
Okay.
So there's that, and I think it will, for every team where it says that versus lefty versus righty, it puts it in bold if you have a lineup there, and it puts it in regular font if there's no lineup. So you can kind of see which ones, even when they're all collapsed, you can see where you've got lineups and where you don't.
Oh, all right. Nice.
It's minor, but
very good. Like we said, I think you're gonna probably be doing some more YouTube videos as you've kind of we've got a lot more features that you probably want to cover.
Yes, I do want to kind of recreate some of those ones, and I've been kind of thinking a little bit more about how I want to describe them, lay them out, and now that, like I said, it's a little more, I don't know if I dare say polished, but somewhat polished, I'd say that I can review some of those a little more thoroughly, and they'll all, when somebody watches them, they'll look like the program does today, or a lot closer to it. Not that they're that far off, but
Yeah.
I definitely think I could make it a little bit better, and to try to focus in on some specific things of here's just the score sheet, and I can just focus on the score sheet. And here's just on those league creation features, and kind of cover them a little more in detail for people that want to follow how to create those leagues. And I think those would be probably some of my bigger, I don't want to say features, but upcoming work is just trying to clean that up. I'm not sure I'll be able to do it in time for the 5,000 people that are going to download it tomorrow or Sunday after watching your podcast here. But
I don't know if it'll be that many, but hopefully we'll get more people interested. And you've got your email, an ability to email you in the spreadsheet. I think that you're always on the Facebook page, and if people have other ideas, I think you're welcome to at least getting some ideas and then seeing what we could do with it, right?
For sure. I'm always open to suggestions or ideas, and I'm more than happy to, from a support side of, if you run into some error, something doesn't work, just send me the spreadsheet, and I'm sure we can get it figured out. So we don't have to always do it remote. It's small enough. You can just send it to me. I can look at it, and we can see what we want to do if it needs anything.
Yeah.
So that's been a pretty convenient support model. I've had a few online meetings with people to kind of go through some things, but just depends what the situation is of how it works. But I'm happy to help either way, however I can.
That's great. All right, Mike, appreciate your time. I know, we ran a little long, but I think we've done a really good job of giving people a nice overview of the Green Fox spreadsheet. Again, I think anybody who's doing baseball utilities, like, this is one of the best ones I've been, able to utilize for my projects. And it's worked for all kinds of different projects that like you mentioned. So, I almost have to. I have not tried the historical leagues yet, so I think that's my next challenge. I'm getting ready to start a 1981 project, so I think that that'll be my first test of like the historical leagues.
Okay,
is playing around with
great.
that.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, James, to be on your podcast and talk about it. And I got to say, I was a little less prepared because I wasn't sure we were going to do that. The real demo today, so I'm glad that you were okay with doing it, because I probably could show 3.6, but I didn't really have stuff set up to show. So I appreciate you doing that and showing your league for these examples. That was nice that you could do that. So
cool. All right.
So let me know what else I can do, whatever you run into. But I'm willing to help however I can.
Yeah,
I appreciate your support on your Facebook group page of kind of showing some screenshots of the games that you played. I had somebody join the Facebook group today and said that's how they saw it. So I appreciate that.
Oh, nice. Well, and it looks good, right? And I think that's one of the things is I like it because I get a nice visual to share on my Facebook page too. So.
If you don't mind, Dave, let me ask you this one question, because one of the things that I thought we might cover, and I really don't have a good answer, because if you ask somebody who makes anything and you say, well, how do I learn how to use this? I'm probably the worst person to ask because I'm so familiar with it. It's probably unfair. So I wanted to ask you, how did you kind of learn how to use it, and maybe what advice would you give somebody that's maybe interested in trying it, but maybe a little, I don't want to say afraid, but unsure? How would you recommend that they go about it?
One, I think that a lot of it was pretty intuitive, but there were a few things that I clicked on. I looked for the help menus within it.
Okay.
I think initially I was like, how do I do it? Like, I thought I was going to see stolen base in the dialogue that pops up when I'm trying to do the results. Like, that one was easy. Like, getting like the outs and the hits, like clicking in the middle of the cell is the thing that you're drawn to naturally, right? So as soon as that dialogue popped up, I was like, oh, okay, great. Everything I need is in here. But then I was like, oh wait, not everything is here.
Right. Most, but not all.
Not all. So I had to figure out like how do I do stolen bases and stuff. But a lot of it was just clicking around, right? And I think there was even early on, I was like, I had batted around, and I was like, what do I do now? Like, how do I go to the 10th batter? And I posted the question on the Facebook page, and then I was clicking, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, what just happened? I was like, oh, that's what it was. I just had to click at the top of the
Yeah.
inning, and it moved it over. Now that'll be solved for, but I just stumbled across
Yeah.
it, and I was like, oh, perfect.
Hey,
It was
speaking of
built
that,
in. Yeah.
if you don't mind, we could look at this sheet or any of the other sheets, but one of the important things that's hard to convey is that any cell that has a little red triangle in the corner has some kind of hover help.
Yes,
And
good
especially
point.
on the score sheet, like this has some, but on the score sheet, I'd say especially that, like if you hover this, I'm not sure if like that talks about the overflow inning there, but it's not that natural to just, but so there's some stuff there, but it's really not, maybe not the first place people are going to look, you know. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things I want to kind of, maybe I should put something that try to detect just the first time you're using it. It puts that in their face and says, "Hey, you should check this out." But that's one of the challenges. Is there's I'm just trying to get that across. Of there is some useful information in there, but it's kind of hidden.
Kind of hidden. Yes. Yeah. And then the same thing will happen with like the extra innings, but again, that one was a little easier to see because it was like up here. I was like, oh, okay. First time I went to extra innings, I was like, where do I get those? And then I was like, oh, wait, it's right here. It tells me just click here, and then I'll be able to see those extra innings. And you just
Yep.
keep clicking to add the next couple of innings. Um, so yeah, a lot of it was just looking around and looking for where you put the help menus because they are all over the place within the spreadsheet. So you know, and even like when I was initially trying to set up the first league, like that's what it was like. Okay, he walked me through the whole process how to do it. I just had to kind of follow the step by steps there of initially setting up the league. And when you set up a custom league, it takes time. I mean, there's a lot of manual entries that have to go in, but it was pretty straightforward. Like, it wasn't daunting from that standpoint. It was just time consuming.
Yeah, depending on how you, what teams you've got and what players you've got. If you've got people you got to just type in,
Yeah.
that's more work for sure. But yeah, so did you watch any of the videos, or did you kind of just
I
pretty
didn't
much
watch
figure it
any
out
of
by
the
looking at
videos. So, most of that I was able to figure out just by working within the spreadsheet. I'm pretty comfortable with Excel, so I think that helped a lot too.
the? Okay.
I have a pretty good understanding how to work with Excel, working with formulas, and I knew like all of those kind of like boxes were going to do functions, like that they were programming things, not just things to look at.
Okay,
So
like buttons.
they were buttons, and so I knew like, okay, if I'm looking for something to do, it's probably just click the button and see what happens. So, um,
Okay.
but yeah, I think I think my recommendation to anybody would be before you start your project with it, just run a test game and just get used to it and get comfortable, and then you probably want
Yeah,
to start jumping into your project.
I think that's great because I was trying to think of what would I tell somebody, and like you had mentioned, it might depend on your comfort level with Excel a little bit, but I don't want to say that you have to know Excel. I don't think you really have to know Excel to do it. That's for sure. But
No.
I think it is some combination of maybe the videos might be optional to see what I can do, but for sure I would take your recommendation of don't start with your you know game you want to play right off the bat. First, just have this kind of practice game. See if you can at least get comfortable with the score sheet number one, and then you want to make a league. Okay, then tackle that. But first, get familiar with at least how to get the score sheet to look like you want it to look.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good place to start. Is just like and there's a lot of people want to jump right into the biggest thing they can imagine, but I think
Right.
sometimes it's like just pick two teams, get a game going, just figure out how to use the spreadsheet is a great approach.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, James.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
no worries, no worries. All right, Mike, I'm going to let you go.
Very
Appreciate your
good.
time, and I think we covered a lot of territory. So people hopefully will come running your way and use this for their next big baseball project. So
All right. Well, it's been great, James. I appreciate you going a little overtime with me here and covering, like you said, a lot of material, and I hope people find it helpful.
all right, thanks.